Lane Kiffin has no bad options.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I am your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest sport on planet Earth, amidst the craziest coaching carousel I can remember. I'll give you under-the-radar games with playoff implications later on today's show. Did Hugh Freeze save his job? I don't know, maybe. Lots to get to on this show, which is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Lane Kiffin is going to be in one of the most unique spots I can remember a coach being in, because I don't know the last time that you had Florida and LSU open at the same time like this, where the same guy is going to be a target in at least the top three, maybe even number one. I've been told that Lane Kiffin is the number one option for the Florida Gators. Maybe he doesn't go. LSU would be foolish to not consider going to get Lane Kiffin from Ole Miss, a guy who has won at a number of different places, who is not new to the coaching ranks, who knows college football very well, who knows the SEC very well, who is winning, who has a translatable set of coaching skills that could go to LSU or Florida and I think have success. I really do. He doesn't have to go to either of those places, though. The position Ole Miss is currently in is one in which Lane Kiffin has done a better coaching job this year than last year by a whole heck of a lot. I think even Ole Miss folks should be able to realize that on paper, this year's Ole Miss team is not as good as last year's, and yet they are performing better in bigger spots. And that's a credit to Lane Kiffin and his coaching staff, but particularly the work that he has done with Trinidad Chambliss at quarterback. That is one of the most remarkable stories in all of college football. In a year where we have had a lot, Vanderbilt and Indiana are legitimate playoff contenders. Indiana looks like a national title contender. That is an unthinkable phrase to utter just 2 years ago, and yet here we are. Vanderbilt, a lifelong bottom dweller for me since I've been a college football fan, is now has in its own control a path to the playoff. That's wild. That's all what. But Trinidad Chambliss going from Ferris State to being productive and winning games in the SEC after they lost Jackson Dart, who is, oh yeah, that's right, playing for the New York Giants and looking pretty darn good. That's remarkable. But Lane Kiffin has no bad options here. Anywhere he goes, and if he stays put, then I believe he's going to win, because that's what he's done. And he seems to keep getting better and better. And at LSU, I think he could go there and succeed. And at Florida, I think he could go there and succeed more than the guys who have been fired from those two institutions. And so Lane Kiffin and his agent are just going to sit there. Kiffin has said he is not going to make a decision based on money. He doesn't want to do that. And I respect that he said that. Does he actually think that way? I think he actually could. You have to try and filter through the coach speak. That's part of what my job is here on the show, to figure out and decipher and talk to folks and try to figure out, okay, what's actually real, what's actually not. I think that one could be. Lane Kiffin's not short on cash. He's doing just fine. His family's going to be fine for a very long time because he's had a long and successful coaching career. And yeah, he's even been fired a couple of times. And that comes with getting a lot. So he's fine on that front. However, there does have to be at least a little bit of an ego trip when you know there's going to be a bidding war for your services. And it's not that the place you're currently at doesn't want you. How deep are Ole Miss's pockets? We might have to find out. I mean, some people are throwing around crazy numbers, suggested that LSU could try to go and get Lane Kiffin with. That'd be wild if $15 million is actually realistic. I don't know firsthand that that's the number being floated. I've just seen that get speculated about by a couple of different folks out there. And if LSU, and when you fire Brian Kelly, are willing to pay him as much money as you are to not coach, it does show that, yeah, you're still very serious. Well, maybe you're going for the ultimate big time swing. But what a position for Lane Kiffin to be in here. If he stays at Ole Miss, they can continue being a playoff caliber team year in, year out. The way they have recruited is good. The way they have portaled is even better. The production on the field is good and getting better over the last couple of seasons. If he went to LSU, look at what Lane Kiffin's done in the portal. They might start winning immediately in 2026. Now, I have been and continue to be of the belief that neither one of these programs should make a move and seriously consider. I'm not saying ignore 2026. I just don't think a move should be made of, hey, who gets us back into the championship picture immediately? Like, there's definitely pressure, residual pressure being applied by Indiana and Vanderbilt having so much success, and Indiana's turnaround has been unbelievably quick. But even the Hoosiers are a much better team this year than they were a season ago in Cignetti's second year. And Clark Lee at Vanderbilt has been there for a while, and it's taken time to build things up. Different situations. I'm just saying I think that's contributed to James Franklin being fired and Billy Napier finally getting fired, which should have happened last year, and Brian Kelly getting fired at LSU. All these moves, I think it's, hey, if those guys can do it, we should be able to do it. And I respect these institutions for having that sort of standard for themselves. Not every place does. Places that should. I don't need to go into details right now or name particular schools, but hey, Arizona State. For a long time, Arizona State wasn't committed to winning the way that they should have. Okay, it's the one example that I will list. Sun Devils catching an unnecessary stray here on today's show, but it makes my point. So for Lane Kiffin in this spot, he does not have to leave to succeed. I don't think he has to leave to achieve his goals. However, do I think Florida and LSU are better jobs than Ole Miss? 100%. No question about it. I don't think that makes Lane Kiffin a lock to leave because there are a lot of things to consider. What's the administration like? Do you feel like it's going to be a fit? Are you actually going to have the support that you feel like you should? Are you going to be able to significantly elevate your team at those places compared to what you're doing at Ole Miss, where they're playing, as we see, at a very high level? Almost had Georgia in Athens. They were that close, and he was scoring with Trinidad Chambliss all over a Kirby Smart defense in front of the Bulldog faithful. So I don't think he has to leave. Possible, of course. Of course it's possible. I do take him at his word that it's not going to be a money thing. I think it's the Billy Bean line from Moneyball. It's about what the money says. And I think that can be a valuable part of a coaching search is, hey, you don't need the money, but we want to show you how committed we are. That could be what it comes down to. But I also, before I get out of this first segment, want to throw a name at you that is way under discussed, probably because of the results on the field this year, which I expected, and I double expected when their quarterback went down earlier this season, who was looking really good. Fran Brown at Syracuse is not going to be there forever. Unless Syracuse gets super serious about football, Fran Brown's a real good head coach. He has been around at a number of different stops. He's got a track record in the SEC. He won 10 games at Syracuse last year. He spent 2 seasons under Kirby Smart at Georgia as a defensive backs coach. And I could give you a lot. If you're an everydayer of this show, you know I'm a big fan of Fran Brown. I am a little surprised, and I think it is reflective of the results. They're sitting at 3-5 right now because when Angeli got hurt, things kind of went off the rails. I think they were a pullback team anyway, but still. Fran Brown is a name that could just quietly get inserted into some of these coaching searches. In spite of what's happening this year, maybe that turns some schools away. But I haven't seen his name get discussed a whole heck of a lot. I've started to see a couple other names pop up, like the offensive coordinator at Georgia Tech. That's interesting. That's an interesting that could be a good hire. Just Georgia Tech has been good on both sides of the ball, but the offense is fun, has a clear identity, does a lot of really good stuff. That could be an interesting hire to watch out for, but I'm really interested to see if Fran Brown's name gets any more traction as the days and weeks and probably months go on. But that portal opens early January. These moves are going to get made before then. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter. All of that good stuff. No, there are not as many ranked games this week, ranked on ranked games, as there have been in weeks past. But there are playoff implicated games flying under the radar that you just have to know about. First, this episode brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next bucket to fourth quarter comebacks and everything in between. FanDuel's got you covered. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. If you want to bet college football, hey, if you think I'm going to cool off after 2 straight winning weeks, I have no intentions of doing so. But if you are a fade the picks kind of guy, guess what? FanDuel is the place to do that. That's where I'm getting all the lines from for my best bets. I am clawing slowly but surely, one at a time, back towards 500. If I get over there this season, I will be happy. I will be happy, and I will continue to try to make that happen. If you don't think I can, hey, you can go against me over at FanDuel. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com, sign up, and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Now, remember, I said under the radar football games with playoff implications that most people might not be dialed into this early in the week, that they're not thinking about, talking about at the water cooler or the local bar or in text threads with their buddies. None of that. Here are some ones you've got to be aware of. Let me start in the Big 12. Texas Tech at Kansas State. The Wildcats are, funny enough, following the exact same trajectory as Kansas last year. I pick them to win 10 games before the year. They struggle out of the gate and eventually realize, wait a minute, we're a good football team. Well, yeah, you always were. You just weren't playing like one when the season began. Kansas State has started to figure things out. This game is in Manhattan. We'll see if Baron Morton does actually play for the Red Raiders. Even if he does, there could be an upset alert. And Texas Tech, with that loss to Arizona State, backup quarterback or not, that is not going to be something that helps their resume. In fact, I'll go as far to say it's going to hurt their resume whenever we get the first playoff rankings in a couple weeks. So, Texas Tech at Kansas State, that's a game to keep an eye on, because if the Red Raiders take a second loss, you open up a whole wild can of worms, Pandora's box, and all other sorts of mythical analogies here for the Big 12. Virginia at Cal. Yes, I mentioned Cal and Virginia in the same, because the Cavaliers have the inside track to go to the ACC championship game. It's wild. It's completely and utterly wild. And guess what? They have to go all the way across the country to a Cal team that just stumbled last week. They lost to Virginia Tech. That's right, interim coach Virginia Tech. They had a field goal to win the game. They led for most of it, still found a way to lose in Blacksburg. I almost put them in my best bets because I thought it was ridiculous, and then thought, no, let's stay away because my instinct is Cal plus 4.5, but then that means Vegas knows something, but do I really want to have one of my picks on Virginia Tech? And the Hokies ended up winning. That's a horrible outcome for Cal. So they are in the classic wounded animal mode. They're at home. Long trip for the Cavaliers. Watch out for that one. Speaking of Virginia Tech, they play Louisville this week. I mean, why not? This is the ACC. Is it out of the realm of possibility that a bottom-tier team could beat a top-tier team? I don't think so. Cal's not a top-tier team, but they're a mid-tier team. Virginia Tech has the advantage in this spot, not just being at home, but having nothing to lose. Everything to gain, nothing to lose. That's a dangerous spot. That can be a dangerous spot. Louisville, a one-loss team. Again, can't afford a loss here. Tulane goes to UTSA. This game is on Thursday, one of the reasons I wanted to do this segment. Tulane is the only Group of 5 team I have ranked right now. South Florida lost to Memphis last week. Memphis' loss to UAB is what is keeping them just out of my top 25, plus some other teams have also done some really good things. But Tulane goes to UTSA, Roadrunners and Jeff Traylor not having the season again that they were maybe hoping for when the year began. But make no mistake about it, Tulane is only a field goal favorite in this spot. They're going to San Antonio, and I tell you, meet me. Roadrunners would love to get a win. Not because it means anything for their season, but kind of like Virginia Tech, who has fired their head coach. UTSA, of course, is not. But it's the nothing to lose, upset provides major vibes. This is the Super Bowl sort of game environment there. So Tulane has to be careful on Thursday and 2 other games in the group of 5 because this battle continues to heat up. It continues to be exciting. It continues to be something to track. Far be it from me to forget to inform you, the college football public, that a group of 5 team will be making the college football playoff this year. And there are a number of teams to keep an eye out for. San Diego State got the win against Fresno State last week. I thought they'd go down. Their defense is just elite. I don't know who's going to score more than 17 points on them the rest of the way. That defense can really, really play. But speaking of Memphis, staying in the American here, which I do think this year is the best group of 5 conference, Memphis goes to Rice. Memphis goes to Rice. I'm not going to use Josh Pate's phrase, one-time friend of the show here at Locked On College Football, but we all know his rule. Memphis better follow that here. You can't afford losses. I know this is a scorching hot take, brand new revelation. They kill you in the resume game, especially the group of 5 level. And then one that I had someone send me a message about not long ago, and they were in the back of my mind. I wouldn't say front of my mind, but a similar theme here. James Madison has just the one loss. They have a Power 4 opportunity later this year. It's why I haven't talked about them as much, because they are not yet to the point where I'd consider ranking them or anyone would consider ranking them because their resume isn't super strong. However, coming into this year, when I listed my top group of 5 teams that could make the college football playoff, James Madison was in the fold. I had Tulane in there. Boise State was in there. I did not have South Florida on my radar as much as I should have. I mentioned Memphis, and I mentioned James Madison. And James Madison has lost just one time. They play Texas State. The Bobcats and their head coach, who was off to a hot start resume-wise earlier this year, only lost to Arizona State. They've lost 3 in a row. They are at home in San Marcos. Future Pac-12 member Texas State taking on James Madison. Again, a theme here. Teams that have got nothing to lose because the biggest goals for their season, they are already out the window. Those can be dangerous football teams to play. Texas State could do it to James Madison. Rice could do it to Memphis. UTSA could do it to Tulane. Virginia Tech could do it to Louisville. Cal could do it to Virginia. Kansas State could do it to Texas Tech. Those are all games that are under the radar this week that have legitimate college football playoff implications, and we're inching closer. We're inching closer week by week, day by day. We just keep getting closer to those first rankings, which are a couple of weeks away. So keep an eye on those games, and just know that I'll get to all the big ones throughout the week. The Oklahoma, Tennessee, Vandy, Texas, Cincinnati, Utah, all of that. But today I thought, you know what? There are so many games that people are just not going to talk about, and they all should be on your radar if you're a college football fan, which if you listen to or watch this show, thank you for doing that. You probably are indeed a college football fan. There are a lot of college football fans in Auburn, Alabama. What do they even want right now? First, this episode brought to you by Game Time. College football is back. It's been back, and we all love that, right? You know what you don't love? The hassle of getting a ticket to go see your favorite team play. It can be more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That is why you want to use Game Time. I've used them myself, and they are great. The app that gives the advantage back to fans. That's Game Time, the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I have used Game Time to go to several events within the last year, and I compared the tickets I got in the section to other ticketing services, and yeah, I got a better deal. The process was super easy. I love no surprise fees at checkout. Might be my favorite part of the whole deal. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Newsflash for those who are unaware, which you might be because you're paying attention to more important college football games. Auburn won. Auburn won over the weekend. Zach Blackerby of Locked On Auburn. He's so excited. Or is he excited? Would you rather Auburn have lost this game and made a change with Hugh Freeze?
No. No. But man, a
Okay.
lot of Auburn people would say yes to that, which I'm a little surprised, slightly disappointed. But no, anytime Auburn steps on the field, court, whatever level, whatever plane of competition you have, yeah, I want them to win.
So Hugh Freeze beats Arkansas. Bobby Petrino, not the game that he was hoping for, as he continues to try and find a reason to be named the head coach in Fayetteville. But we're here to talk about the Tigers, and let's discuss how they won this game, Zach, because that adds another wrinkle to the conversation, because it wasn't on the back of Jackson Arnold learning how to throw the football consistently. It was on the back of one-time Stanford platoon quarterback Ashton Daniels, and of course the Auburn defense, which we know is really good. What does Auburn do going forward with the head coach quarterback dynamic that is as unique as any in the country right now?
Yeah, unique's a nice word that I will take for sure. No, this is a game, and I said my biggest fear going into this was we were going to talk all week about how bad Arkansas's defense is, which it is very, very bad.
Not good.
And Auburn's offense was going to score like 10 to 13 points or whatever. And we weren't too far away from that. I mean, Auburn scored one offensive touchdown against Arkansas. It was a part of a scripted offense in the first quarter, and then they did not score again. Yes, Ashton Daniels is getting a lot of love, and I do think some of the stuff Ashton did was better than the stuff Jackson did. I don't want to take anything away from Ashton here, and making a move in that game was 100% the right move after Jackson threw the pick six. But the story of this is how incredible Auburn's defense is and how awful Auburn is in the red zone. I've never seen anything like it before.
That's not a great thing to say about a third-year head coach. A first-year head coach, you can overlook it and say this has to improve going into next year. But in year 3, Zach, what's the status of Hugh Freeze's seat underneath his rear after a win that, I mean, going into the year, you look at on paper and go, boy, they should win that game. By the time it comes around, folks like myself pick Arkansas to win because they're at home. They've got more urgency. You think it's going that way, and then they make the change. What does all of this mean for Hugh Freeze?
I mean, that's the, $15, $16 million question when you talk about, potential buyouts and all that. I don't think it did anything. I'm going to be honest. If anything, it kicked the can down the road. To me, I mean, you've got a similar situation this weekend, right? Like, I think most people are going to pick Auburn to beat Kentucky. Like, I don't think that's going to mean anything. Now, if you lose that one, I think the Freeze era is done. The following week is when it gets interesting. When Auburn goes to Nashville to take on the Fighting Diego Pavias, the Vanderbilt Commodores, which are a legitimate team. Very fun to watch. One of the more entertaining games I saw with them taking on Mizzou this past weekend. I think that's when it gets interesting, Spencer, because like if you lose that one, despite, winning the 2 previous ones against teams that Auburn should beat, you've got an open date after that. That's your other bye week. Would it make sense then to go to DJ Durkin going into Mercer and then going into the Iron Bowl? And then, we'll see what happens if they stick with DJ Durkin or if they feel like they want to go in another direction. That wouldn't shock me, but I'm kind of getting the feeling, Spencer, that if they're going to make a change, I think the most likely scenario is after the season. That's my guess.
Let me just throw this idea at you. Let's say they beat Kentucky, but they do it the way Texas did, where you go, wow, they won. But is there anything else we have that's good to say about the way that the team played in that game? Like, okay, I guess you got to win. What if that's enough for Auburn to say, all right, we're done with the Hugh Freeze era, and they want to give DJ Durkin enough time to have a sample period, a tryout, as the interim acting, interviewing head coach, however you want to see it. Do you think that is appealing to the Auburn administration at all to say this is going to be your best chance to interview for the head coaching job, and if it doesn't go well, then we can rule you out as a candidate for next year?
I think if you want to hire DJ Durkin, you just wait, because I think there's a lot of potential downside if you want to go with DJ Durkin. Like, let's just wait, because You go to Nashville. What if you lose to Vanderbilt? What if they don't look crisp against Mercer? What if they lose to the Iron Bowl? Your first home Iron Bowl is a big deal. I know it'd be a little bit different because there's an interim tag and all of that. But I think if DJ Durkin is the plan, I think you wait or maybe you do it after the Vanderbilt game so you can almost shield him and protect him because like Mercer's Mercer. And then like if you lose to Alabama in the Iron Bowl, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of people that hold it against them. Alabama looks really, really good. To me, to answer your like the specific part of your question on like if you beat Kentucky but you have to scratch and claw to do it and you don't feel good about it, to me, I think that's another argument of just do it at the end of the season. That's why I think that's so likely. I think it's either then, assuming they win. If they lose, I think that's an easy answer. It's on Sunday. But if they win, I think it's either after a potential Vandy loss or you wait till the season's over.
There are two past coaching situations pop into my head, and I think we could see a similar roadmap here. The first one is at Boise State. Spencer Danielson was the defensive coordinator under former head coach Andy Avalos, who's fired after poor results. He gets the interim tag. He goes on to win the Mountain West as the interim. He gets named the head coach, and Boise State was in the playoff last year. That's what I'm not saying pound for pound, move for move. That's how it would go. But I think if that were to happen for the Tigers, where, you move on from Hugh Freeze and then Durkin looks pretty good and it's like, well, we can't ignore the results here, so we're going to give him a chance to be the head coach, and then it goes well. The other one that frankly feels more likely to me is Dave Aranda, where they won at Arkansas. Now they could win at Kentucky. Maybe if they beat Vanderbilt or Alabama, who I have in my top 10, coming off of their performances the last several weeks, if they win one of those games, I think that could be enough to keep Hugh Freeze. You have the quarterback change component, which happened at Baylor last year. They went from DeQuan Finn to Sawyer Robertson. That's been a revelation. They thought, all right, the guy who we once believed in is getting it right. He's figured it out. And then they came back this year, and of course, Baylor hasn't been any good, starting with the Auburn game, of course, when the Tigers played their best game of the year. But those are kind of the two paths that I see materializing here for this Auburn coaching situation. What do you think about that? Yeah,
I mean, once again, the options, I think the most likely option right now is 6-6. So that has you beating Kentucky and Mercer and losing to Vandy and Alabama. I think that's the most likely scenario. The next one, I think, would be Auburn winning one of those games that you mentioned. And at 7-5 with a win over Vandy or Alabama, definitely Alabama. But if you beat Vandy and you went out into the Iron Bowl, I think most Auburn fans would be upset with the decision to keep Freeze. But like winning the games, like you have to give him credit. Like if you're going to take credit from him when he loses, you got to give him credit for the wins too. And you had to know that this was an option. You had every opportunity to let him go after Mizzou. You had every opportunity to do it. And they chose not to. And they knew what could potentially happen. And so if you went out to the Iron Bowl with a road win against a top, what Vandy would at that point would be top 10, top 8. If they beat Texas this weekend, they're going to shoot up, I would think, a little bit. I think I got to keep them in that situation. And then maybe the administration says, like, okay, you're the guy. You got to do the CEO thing. You got to do the CEO thing. You got to go get an offensive coordinator.
Do you keep Ashton Daniels at quarterback this week?
I do. I don't want Jackson Arnold to play another snap at Auburn.
Oof.
Is that crazy?
No, I don't.
Though? Is it? He's getting paid the same regardless, Spencer.
No, it's true. I just that's. Did you think we'd be in that spot? I think is the more appropriate reaction that made me say that. Like that's.
No, I mean, I thought, and we did this a ton over the offseason, where it's like he doesn't have to be great. He doesn't have to be a top 5 SEC quarterback. If he's average, if he's 8th or 9th best quarterback in the conference,
middle of the pack.
If he's middle of the pack, Auburn's undefeated right now. Think about that. With how good this defense has been, Auburn is undefeated right now if Jackson Arnold is the 9th best quarterback in the SEC. Think about that. I don't think that's a crazy take.
I don't think it's a crazy take at all. By the way, can we draw the similarities?
Go cry right now. Let me go cry for a second. I'll be right back.
Can we paint the similarities between LSU and Auburn? I wish LSU and Auburn played this year. That'd be the most exciting Big Ten West 9-6 football game that we have seen in quite some time.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think I legitimately don't believe that Auburn and LSU are all that different. Nussmeier's been better than Arnold this year. Doesn't mean he's been great. And they, of course, have just blown everything up. We'll see if that happens in Auburn in the coming
the difference
days,
is
weeks,
there,
months.
Though, is like Arnold appears like the issues with Arnold appear to be Arnold. Is Hugh Freeze helping him? No, I don't think so. But Nussmeier, we know Nussmeier's solid, and he's like the scheme is a joke. With Auburn, I'm still like, at this point, it's been 3 years. Like, I don't think the scheme is great. But if we're putting blame, like percentage wise, like I think I would put a higher percentage being on quarterback play than the scheme at this point.
I think that's fair,
LSU,
especially given
all scheme.
I think that's fair. I think that's a notable difference because if Ashton Daniels plays this week and looks good again, the way that, I mean, he did enough to win the game on Saturday. Arnold obviously wasn't doing that. That does make you go, well, maybe it's not the coaching step. Maybe they just chose wrong.
Yeah,
maybe
Nussmeier has traits though that I think the NFL is going to like. Like I think the draft process is going to like Nuss.
Yeah, they will.
There's no way they're looking Jackson Arnold's direction.
No, I don't think that's the case. Jackson Arnold could be on his third team in 3 years in 2026.
I hope so. I mean, for his sake, like he doesn't need to be playing in the SEC. Like for his sake and to find success. And I mean, it sounds like mentally there's a lot of stuff going on, which you always hope the best for those guys. But Hugh Freeze just constantly like tiptoeing around his confidence. Like we can't do that anymore. And like legit, Spencer, I have a legit concern. I talked about it on my my Tuesday edition of Locked on Auburn, where like if they do, Hugh Freeze wouldn't name a starter. If they do start Jackson at home at Jordan-Hare Stadium, that I think the crowd's gonna be pretty great. One, because it's at home against Jordan-Hare, and then one, it's a game that they should win. I think they're gonna boo him. And like this kid, tough. Like I don't want him to go through that.
No. I just roll Daniels at this point. You know what Arnold is.
Like,
you have a season and a half of data.
Like, and Hugh Freeze knows that would happen. Like, don't start him. That's not. You've already had him sit next to you after all these post-game pressers where he's just slouched down, and like, don't keep putting him in these situations.
I agree.
It's not right. He needs to go somewhere else and get a fresh start because I think he can be solid at a certain level of college football.
Yeah. Boise State might need a quarterback. Jackson Arnold, that'd be a good fit. Zach Blackerby, always a good fit here on the show. He hosts Locked on Auburn, of course. And well, if you want your daily Auburn Tigers podcast, that's the one. It's me. That's the one. It's Zach.
Me.
It is indeed, just like Adele said. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.
Love you long time.